that Shakyamuni Buddha is irreplaceable. So we might wonder how he attained the ultimate enlightenment, how he became a Buddha with a perfectly accumulated merit and wisdom. How did he start in the first place? And how did he accumulate the required good dhammas? So first, let's see how Shakyamuni accumulated merit along the way. During the first Asamkhya eons, he venerated 75,000 Buddhas. During the second, he venerated 76,000 Buddhas. And during the third Asamkhya eons, he venerated 77,000 Buddhas. This is a general way of describing a bodhisattva, how a bodhisattva progresses and along the way, along the Mahayana way to become a fully enlightened Buddha. And usually we say, as also in many Mahayana sutras, it says it takes 3 Asamkhya eons. From the first, usually it covers the period from an ordinary being to the first stage bodhisattva, and then the second Asamkhya eons, it is from the first to the 8th, and then the last 3 stages all the way to Buddhahood. It takes another Asamkhya eon. So altogether it's 3 Asamkhya eons. And we also mentioned that Asamkhya, it means innumerable in meaning in English. Well, in fact, it is also a number. It is a number if you write 51 zeros behind 1. That's the number. And how? And also we would like to know who or which Buddha Shakyamuni for the first time vowed for enlightenment, and which Buddha he met or venerated at the end of each Asamkhya eons. So in the very beginning, for the very first time, he vowed for enlightenment or Bodhisattva in front of the ancient Shakyamuni Buddha when he was a craftsman making porcelains. Of course, he vowed with extremely clean faith, and his vow is, may I too become a Buddha completely like him, like the ancient Shakyamuni Buddha. And by saying completely like him, in which manner? Including the body, the followers, the lifespan, the world to be born in, and the merits like the wonderful marks and so on. Everything completely like the ancient Shakyamuni Buddha. That was the first time he vowed for enlightenment. And then at the end of the first Asamkhya eons, he venerated Ratna Shiking Buddha. This Buddha, the name of this Buddha, could actually be chanted especially, and could be chanted with the merit dedicated especially for animals, to save them from the miserable, according to Mahayana masterpieces. And at the end of the second Asamkhya eons, he venerated Dipankara Buddha. And this was also the Buddha mentioned in the Diamond Sutra, who predicted Shakyamuni's Buddhahood. And at the end of the third Asamkhya eons, he venerated Vipassana Buddha. And this Buddha was the first Buddha among the 7 past Buddhas. The first Buddha listed among the 7 past Buddhas, where Shakyamuni Buddha was the 7th. Our Shakyamuni Buddha was the 7th in that list, and also the closest, the nearest Buddha to us. And how Shakyamuni completed the 6 paramitas when he was accumulating his merit and wisdom as a bodhisattva? Well, he completed the perfection of giving by giving everything to everyone out of his great compassion. And we all understand what everyone means. But when saying everything, there's actually a difference in the level or in the difficulty of doing that. For instance, the easiest of giving would include those personal belongings, fortunes, houses, and so on. And then the medium level, more difficult, is giving his own beloved ones, like his son, his daughter, his wife, his entire kingdom, things like this. However, the most difficult type of giving to everyone without asking anything for return is giving his own bodily parts, like his arm, his legs, his eyes, his head, his lives, to other people, to other sentient beings, out of compassion and asking for nothing. So in this way, he completed the perfection of giving. And Shakyamuni, as a bodhisattva, completed the perfection of morality and endurance by not getting annoyed, even when someone broke his limbs, despite he was not detached. That reminded us actually the story as recorded in Diamond Sutra, told by Shakyamuni himself. And I bet many of you already are familiar with that story. When he was a practitioner with ascetic practices, and he met that king who was very notoriously bad-tempered, and they met in the forest. So for some reasons, the king misunderstood this ascetic practitioner and cut off his arms and legs and so on. That was one past life of Buddha. And at that time, Buddha was not. At that time, Shakyamuni was not in his previous life. Did not get annoyed at all. Rather, he had a vow. He said, "I will come to share the Dhamma with you when I become fully enlightened. I will come to you and share with you the Dhamma. I will help you get enlightened." And Shakyamuni, as a bodhisattva, completed the perfection of diligence by praising the Pusha Buddha. He praised this Buddha when he was a disciple of Pusha Buddha. He praised him for 7 days and 7 nights, non-stop, with a very clean face. And his praising to Pusha Buddha goes like, as I quote, "In the heavens above, in all that is below, nothing compares with the Buddha. Throughout the worlds of the 10 directions, he is matchless. Of all that I have seen in the world, there is nothing at all that is like the Buddha." That is how he praised to the Pusha Buddha for 7 days and nights. In that way, he completed the perfection of diligence. He also completed the perfection of meditation and wisdom at the moment of Vajra Samadhi or Vajra Samadhi. That was the last moment before perfection, before either becoming a arhat or becoming a Buddha. And in this case, of course, that is the last moment before Buddhahood, attaining Buddhahood. And after that, Shakyamuni has destroyed 2 types of ignorance, the defiled and the non-defiled ignorance. We can also call them 2 types of obstruction, the afflictive and the cognitive obstructions. If you recall lecture 1, we have mentioned these 2 types of ignorance when it comes to that homage to the Buddha by Vasubandhu, before he started the main content of this treatise. that he homage to the Buddha that has destroyed all darkness. So this is the journey Shakyamuni has gone through from the beginning of Bodhisattva to all the way to he has obtained the full perfection as a Buddha. At the end of this chapter, we would like to share the 3 types of meritorious work, which are very important and also closely related to our understanding of Buddhism as well as our daily practice. So these 3 types of meritorious work, they are giving, morality, and cultivation. They are called merit because they all bring pleasant effects. They are also called action because they are actions by nature. And they are also called operation because, for instance, giving is an act and morality is basically the discipline, and the cultivation is always based on samapati, or sometimes in English they also say absorption. And these arise from and also dependent on volition or intentions. So they're called merit and action and also operation. First, let's take a look on giving. Giving with a mind of offering to render homage or service. So it's not necessarily giving with money, It can also be given dharma or given fearlessness in a way to render homage or service to other people. And its effect is abundant enjoyment. We can classify giving based on the benefit. The first kind is that like the offering of ordinary people to a stupa. Well, they will benefit themselves due to this good action. They will not benefit the stupa because the stupa is not a sentient being. So this is a giving of self-benefit. The next kind is benefit for others, like giving of a detached and noble being to an ordinary being. Of course, it's benefiting the others, both benefiting the ordinary beings, but since the noble one, in this case, already detached from the stage. For instance, a non-returner. He gave something to an ordinary being, but after he died, after this noble being, after this non-returner dies, he will not come back to this realm of desire anymore. So the pleasant effect that will ripen in the realm of desire has nothing to do with him. So it will not benefit him in that case. So this is a giving with benefits for others. The next type is benefit both self and others, like giving of ordinary beings or non-detached noble ones to others. So they will benefit others and they will also benefit themselves. And the last kind is benefit neither self nor others. It's like giving of a detached and noble being to a stupa. The stupa is not a sentient being, will not be benefited, and since the noble being is detached, they will not enjoy the pleasant effects to be ripened here in the realm of desire. We do have 3 superior givings. So how do we say that a giving is superior than others? Well, if the giver is superior, or if the gift is superior, or if the object, the field of giving is superior. We first take a look at the superior giver. So what makes a giver superior? Well, if they give with spiritual riches like the faith, the morality, hearing, generosity, and the wisdom, and so on. And we actually have 2 more. Modesty and shame. Then these 7 altogether will make the 7 noble fortunes. If a giver gives with such spiritual riches, and if they give with respect to other people, with their own hands, if they give at the right time, and while giving they do no harm to anyone, that will lead to effects of honor, of abundant enjoyment, of timely enjoyment, and inviolable enjoyment. So This is a precise match between cause and effect. He gives with respect to other people, so in return he will have honor from other people. People will honor him. He gives with his own hands, therefore he will get abundant enjoyment in return. He gives at the right time, so he will have timely enjoyments. When he is in need of something, that will come. When he is in need of fortune, fortune will come. When he is in need of help from other people, that help will come. That is timely giving will have timely enjoyments in return. If he gives while doing no harm to anyone, then his enjoyments, the effects, will be inviolable. Will not be, for instance, will not be stolen, will not be broken by fire or water and anything, any kind of things like that. It's called inviolable enjoyment. You see the relation between the cause and the effect. Then we talk about gifts that are superior. A gift that is perfect in color and odor and taste and touch. It is a superior gift. And in return, it will lead to effects of beauty, of glory, delight, and very fine body and pleasant tangibles. Again, this is a very good match between the cause and effect. For instance, if your gift is perfect in color, in return, you will gain beauty for yourself. If your gift is good, it's perfect in odor, you gain glory and so on. Because odor it spreads everywhere. So like your glory, your reputation will be everywhere. You will be known by many people all over the world. So likewise for the rest. And then a field for giving. A field is superior when it is a field through an excellent destiny or excellent suffering. If the field is excellent, it can be through destiny or the self-suffering or the benefit or the merit. So let's give you an example. If a field is excellent via destiny, we can say that if you give to the lower realms, to hungry ghosts, to the animals, for example, it is less superior than giving to humans. And giving to humans is less superior to giving to devas. Well, of course, this is only a general description, because we do know that we have noble beings, for instance, as humans or as devas. So a general description would be that devas are superior field than humans, and humans are superior field than the lower realms. But if we take a closer look in the humans specifically, we will say that if you give to ordinary beings, that is not as superior as if you give to those, for instance, who has broken their disciplines. And if you give to people with broken discipline, that is less superior than if you give to those with discipline. And of course, if you compare giving to people with discipline, it will be even more superior if you give to noble beings. So it's just a relatively superior or inferior fields. And what does it mean by a field is excellent through suffering? For instance, a field of suffering would be sick people. So if you take care of sick people, you give to them, that's a superior field. And a field excellent through benefit. A field of benefit, it refers mainly to our parents, but not limited to our parents. It could be anyone or any sentient being that has benefited us, especially when it is a huge benefit. Because as we read in the text of Buddhism, we sometimes come across stories like, for instance, Buddha was once a bear, and the bear lived in a deep forest. And once there was a guy, he came to the forest to get some wood, to cut some trees, get some wood for fire during the winter time. But he got lost. He couldn't find the way back, and the snow was getting bigger and bigger. He was in panic. He might die here. And then he was found by the bear, which was a past life of Buddha. The bear saved him, took him back to his cave, to the bear's cave, and gave him food and whatsoever. And then for a few days, when the snow was melted, and then when it was safe, so the bear guarded him and showed him the way back home, with only one condition, that he should not tell anyone about the place of this bear. So he said yes, he promised yes, and then, but after a few while, when he came back home, he betrayed. He told other hunters where the bear is, and then they came together to hunt the bear. That's one story. So, and the bear, of course, is a field of benefit to that person. But he did the wrong thing. He betrayed. And he got very sad result, very bad effect, ripened on him. And also, once Buddha was a deer of 9 colors, very beautiful, living very distant from the city. So once he saved a person who got drowned in the water, and the guy asked the deer, "What can I do for you in return?" The deer said, "Nothing, except that you don't tell anybody where I am." The man said yes. But after a while, when the queen had a dream about this deer of 9 colors, she asked the king to get the deer for her, to make some clothes. And then, so the king posted an advertisement, said, "Anyone who can tell me where the deer is will have a big bonus." And this guy, he wanted that big bonus from the king, so he betrayed his words again. He betrayed what he had promised to the deer. And when the king and him and a large army came to where the deer lived, very bad, a very miserable or unpleasant effect ripened to this man immediately when he pointed to the deer. His arm just fell down to the ground. His arm or his fingers fell onto the ground immediately. And the last kind of field is excellent field is through the merit, whereby by saying that a field of merit would mean mostly ordained monks and nuns or noble beings, but Buddha also, it's a field of merit. So with superior giver or superior gift or superior field, these would make givings superior. And of course, all of these would yield great enjoyable effects. We can also talk about the best material giving, just with a little bit more details. So the best material giving would be from a liberated person to another liberated person. Let's say from an arhat to another arhat. If an arhat offered some food to another arhat, since they are both liberated, they're both detached from all 3 realms. That's one of the best material giving. And also could be from a bodhisattva to other sentient beings. This kind of giving is also the best because of the tremendous merit of Buddha mind of that bodhisattva. And another group, the third group of best material giving, could be giving to either adorn mind, or to conquer greed, or to acquire meditation, or to acquire liberation and nirvana. Not like giving to adorn mind, for instance, is not to obtain anything in return. And to conquer greed, well, that's actually one of the 6 paramitas practiced by bodhisattvas. And giving to acquire meditation, meditation on calm abiding or on insight, that's samatha, and vipassana, samatha, vipassana, these, or maybe the dhyana meditations and so on, with a balance of both, which we will talk about these in chapters, on the meditation on calm abiding or insight. We'll talk about them in chapter 6, and about different meditations or samapatis we will discuss more in chapter 8. or giving to acquire liberation or nirvana. Of course, that is the ultimate purpose. That is the ultimate purpose of a giving or morality or cultivation whatsoever. That's the ultimate purpose. And then we also say that apart from those noble beings, apart from those field of merit, Buddha or Bodhisattvas or Sravaka nobles, we can also, these 5 kinds of giving to ordinary beings will also have immeasurable retribution. It includes giving to one's mother, or to one's father, or to a sick person, or to a Dharma teacher, or to a Bodhisattva in his last birth. Giving to one's mother and one's father will have immeasurable retribution because these two belong to the field of benefit. And giving to a sick person, it belongs to the field of suffering. And giving to a Dharma teacher, like your root lineage guru or your Dharma teachers, and giving to a Bodhisattva in his last birth, for example, Prince Siddhartha. These two belong to the field of merit. And here you can see that according to Sarvastivada or Sarvastivadian scholars, they don't think Prince Siddhartha is a noble being before he has obtained the Buddhahood. So in other words, a Bodhisattva in his last birth is still an ordinary being before the Vajra Samadhi, before obtaining Buddhahood. For instance, for the Prince Siddhartha, before he obtained his Buddhahood under the Buddha tree, he was still ordinary being. However, a giving to such a Bodhisattva will have immeasurable retribution because he's going to be Buddha. And then we have talked about the first type of meritorious work, which is giving. The second type of meritorious work is morality. That is abstaining from immorality and from offenses forbidden by the Buddha as well. Where we have two types, of course, the informative and non-informative actions, which we have discussed earlier. So we don't have to explain more. But we do need to know there are 4 merits with morality or with discipline. The first is that one will not be polluted by abandoning discipline, of course. And the second is that one will not be polluted by the defilements that give rise to immoral actions. The third merit is that one will be capable of counteracting immorality and defilements with 4 applications of mindfulness. We will explain the 4 applications of mindfulness in chapter 6. And also, all the merits by maintaining this morality are not for pleasant retribution or pleasant retributive effects in return, but rather, or like in humans or in Deva realms, but rather for acquiring liberation and destroying all defilements and sufferings. So that's about the morality. And the third type of meritorious work is cultivation, and that is with concentration and meditation as its nature, because it perfumes and transforms the mind in a very powerful and stable way. By saying that, we actually should compare the knowledge or cognition or discernment gained from hearing, or reflection, and cultivation. They are different. They are different because such a knowledge or cognition or discernment from cultivation is way more powerful, stable, and reliable than those gained from hearing and reflection. So therefore we have these 2 metaphors to help us understand the difference. It's like if you write notes on a water ladle. A water ladle is something you can help you fetch water. It's a tool that you can use to fetch water from a container. If you write notes with a pen, a pencil, whatever, on that water ladle, what would happen when you go fetching water? And when you come back, the notes will be gone. So that's just a metaphor for knowledge or cognition gained from hearing and reflection. So it's not as powerful or reliable and stable as from cultivation. A second metaphor is like making a pottery in a kiln. As we know that if you want to make potteries, if you want to make those potteries or porcelains, you need to heat them in a very high temperature kilns. They should be produced in that way, because otherwise a pottery without heating process, without that burning process, will be just fragile. It can do nothing. It will be broken easily. It cannot hold any water or anything. And likewise, only after this kind of cultivation, and one can truly cultivate merit with the power of samapatis to make it strong, to make it reliable. That's a metaphor for cultivation with samapatis. We will of course talk more about meditation, samapatis in chapter 8. And we can also compare the morality and cultivation because they have a slightly different focus. If a sentient being wants to be reborn in a good destiny, like as humans or as a deva, well then morality is definitely the first priority. That's the principal cause for a good rebirth. If one instead wants to cut off afflictions, to abandon defilements, and to liberate from the samsara, well, then cultivation is the principal cause for this. Especially the discernment gained from such cultivation can truly abandon defilements and can liberate sentient beings from samsara. But of course, we need to be aware that before we obtain Buddhahood, before we become fully enlightened, and before our merit and wisdom has been perfected, we need all these three types of meritorious work. You do need morality because you don't want to be reborn into those lower and miserable destinies. Then you will lose the opportunity to cultivate. Well, then you do need cultivation in order to gain a stable and powerful discernment, in order to abandon defilements. Of course, given as well to accumulate merit. So that's the spirit behind this. And so far we have talked about the main contents in this chapter 4 on different actions and their effects and things we should be aware of. So a short summary would be that during this seemingly long journey, a fundamental understanding on karma and their retributions, the causes and effects, they are crucial for us to stay away from those risky things and to enhance our accumulation of merit and wisdom, and to make sure we are actually on the right track towards liberation and enlightenment. So that's for chapter 4. And since we now also know that defilements are our number one enemy, that is, those are the things to be abandoned by discernment, and discernment are from cultivation. So in next chapter, chapter 5, we will take closer look with a lot details into those defilements, or what we call contaminants. So that's for now for chapter 4.